In Part 4 of 4, learn about edit purchase orders, reciprocal state payroll tax, and other miscellaneous enhancements. Another new feature that helps with efficiency is the ability to edit purchase orders. If we open purchase orders and go to the last purchase order, you see that you cannot edit the job or vendor on the purchase order. If you are logged in as company administrator, select Options, Set PO Vendor Job Phase Editing Rules. A message displays that no orders can be opened, and do you want the program to clear the record? We'll click Yes. There were no changes to the record, so click No to the Save Changes message. In the Set Rules window, if you opt in to allow changes to vendors or job information, you must select at least one option for each element you allow. Make your selections and click OK to exit. At that point, you can edit the purchase order. The next topic jumps to payroll and reciprocal tax withholding. In general, this has to do with employees that live in a state and work in another state, but need the state tax to compute for all wages based on the resident state. Let's get oriented with an employee who might need this type of reciprocal tax. We'll open Payroll, Payroll Processing, and Employees. Employee number 7, David Miller, is set up with the tax state of California on the Human Resources tab. If you go to the Calculations tab, you see the California state income tax in the list and it's active, and no other state tax withholding. Now let's look at David's payroll record for the week. Note there are 3 days working in Oregon and 2 days in California. Let's open Compute Payroll and perform a trial compute on this record. Return to the payroll record to look at the calculations and amounts. The way it's set up right now, the program computes California state income tax and Oregon state income tax for the associated hours on the check. What if David should only have California state income tax withheld on all hours worked, no matter where the work happens? The first step is to inactivate the Oregon State Income Tax withholding on the Employee Calculations tab. Open David's employee record and go to the Calculations tab. Here you see the California State Income Tax from earlier. If the Oregon income tax is not here, add the tax to the calculations. For the Oregon State Income Tax calculation, change active to No. Save your changes. Compute the payroll record again. When you return to the payroll record and look at the Calculations tab, you see the Oregon state income tax is no longer calculated, but the amount for the California state income tax remains the same and only computes for the 2 days he worked in California. To include all hours when the California tax computes, in the Compute Payroll window, be sure to select Options, Use Reciprocal State Income Tax Withholding Rules. A message displays that you are turning on reciprocal state tax, and there are more details about what happens when you use this feature. Click OK to accept the message. When you turn this on, it remains on until you turn it off. The default for the option when you install the new software version is not selected. Compute the payroll record again. Return to the payroll record and the Calculations tab. Notice the California state income tax calculated for all wages this time, and there is no Oregon state withholding. Another new payroll feature is you can see how the net wages are distributed for employees with direct deposit. We'll take a look at Robert Smith to view the direct deposit setup. You see here his net wages distribute to 4 different accounts. After you compute the payroll record, In the payroll record, select Options and Direct Deposit Net Distribution. The grid displays the allocation for the direct deposit based on the employee direct deposit setup. When you final compute, the values for direct deposit calculate and are stored in a new table in the database called DDP-Net. This is not retroactive to prior payroll processing. In addition to the View option, when you print payroll checks, there are several new direct deposit stubs that itemize the net distributions. If you open the form design for 42 deposit stub and scroll down, you see where the direct deposit net distribution information prints on the form. The fields you see on this form are calculated fields, and you can use them on other reports and forms. In this segment, we'll cover a series of smaller miscellaneous enhancements. On the employee, there's a new nickname field, and it displays in some lookup windows. For the status, there's a new option for retired. In lookup windows, there are changes to the information you see. For example, in the employee lookup window, you no longer see the street address, and you have the option to show columns for the nickname. Let's talk about ACH setup for both payroll and vendors. In company information, there is a new Company ID from Bank box, which is enabled when you select ID Code Designator or ICD to be blank. Some banks provide their own ID separate from using the federal ID number. There's also a zero fill option on the immediate origin options to meet bank requirements. In the beginning, you heard the feature enhancements were throughout the software. Now we'll look at Dispatch Board in Service Receivables. On the Dispatch Board, when you open Settings, Preferences, there is a new option on the General tab to show invoiced work orders as transparent. When you turn on this feature, the service orders still show on the dispatch board, but they are transparent. You can hover over the order on the board to view the tips and work with the orders, but they aren't as noticeable on the dispatch board. For our subscription customers who have access to use the Mobile Time app, there is a new setting in the Company Settings tab to allow entries beyond the end of the pay period. You decide what your number of days is that works for your organization. This allows users to enter forgotten time after the pay period ends but before you generate checks. You can choose from 1 to 9 days for the grace period. If you open Sage 100 Contractor with the Run as Administrator option, you now receive a message about the functionality that may not work properly when you do this. Integrated elements that may not work properly may be caused by the 100 Contractor user being logged in as an administrator, but the user for the external applications is not. Some minor items you might be interested to hear about include the sample company dates are moved to 2022. In 521, when you save without marital status for federal income tax, you get a warning. You should no longer see a bracket or other character when you create a new purchase order and press Enter in the PO number box. The following items were in a previous release, but if you are not on that release, you may see them when you install version 24.1. In Select to Pay windows for AP and AR, the last column now totals in the footer of the screen properly. Cost codes with decimals now sort properly in different screens like Progress Billings when you sort by cost code. Those are the highlights, and there are a lot of them. We hope you choose to install your software soon and enjoy these new enhancements and features.